Hello, hello, hello. Greetings to everyone tonight. Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Terrain. I am your host, Cav Boss. So we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. We'll give everybody a little chance to come in. And we'll talk about a couple of the new projects going on with the Desert Board. Hopefully everybody that's here so far can hear me okay. Trying to do my mic a little different, so hopefully that will help for me not to drop out as much. We can only hope. Hope is eternal, isn't it? All right. So we've got, I'm going to discuss both projects. I'm having a problem with the Plaza, which I'll explain. It's my own fault for getting in a hurry. So I will go over that here in a little bit. But I don't know if I can fix it or if I'm going to have to come back and redo it. If I've got to redo it, I've got to redo it. It is what it is. We will make it work. All right. Well, said we'll give everybody a couple more minutes. It's like everybody kind of drags in. Hope, right? Dun, dun, dun. Chances are I am going to have to redo this because what happened, but we'll talk a little bit about the steps here in a minute. But so in my rush to get this ready for tonight, I normally, before I do anything to it, I seal it with some paint, and I did not seal this. So because I have put so much glue on it, and that the MDF has soaked up the glue, which has caused it to warp. Got a pretty big bow in it, probably about 1/4 of an inch in the center, I would say. So on top of that, I did not glue my grit down very well. So as you can see from it being wet and not getting a good seal, I've got spots. That's an easy fix. The getting the bow out of it is not so easy. Don't. The only thing I could possibly probably do is try to moisten the bottom a little bit. Put this thing up on 4 corners and put some heavy weight in the middle of it and see if that will take it out. So I think before I spend a lot of time fixing the grit, I will tonight after the show do that and let it sit overnight and find out if it works from there. But we'll go over the steps. That part of it is still works. So, and I put some pictures up on the Facebook last night too page as I was kind of working on it. So it's got some of the steps there as well that we can go over, or that you can go check out and see more of what I'm talking about. And then we've got the Oasis. So that'll be the one I'm going to work on tonight. It has been sealed. I have before I do any work to it. So that'll keep the MDF from soaking up the water. But so here's what I did. Here's how I built this thing for the Plaza. And what I did is I started off with the plate here. This is the piece just for anything to sit on, if it's not permanently attached to the board or whatever. And that is something I could do with this if I wanted to, and maybe that's what I'll do to so that it's usable down the road. Is I can take a piece of styrofoam and cut out a bigger piece, and kind of put it like it's up on a hill or something like that, and then glue this thing and put enough weight on it to let it seal to it. That will probably would take the bow out of it too. I just don't, for the piece that I want it for, I don't really want it up on a hill. This needs to kind of sit flat on the board. So I'll probably end up redoing this piece for the final one, and then have this and leave as is down the road with a heel, just to have as an extra piece for if I need a big square of rock deal. So this got cut out in MDF. I sanded down the sides and pulled them down to a point, and that's the way I normally like to do all my pieces that I do for I try to kind of put an irregular edge around them so that they don't pop out as much on the board, and then fix them from there. What I also did is when I cut this is I put a pattern down on this so that I would know where I needed to glue my little stone pieces here. And what I ended up doing with those is and I will tell you this right now, if you are going to do a lot of terrain, get you a Proxon cutter. They are awesome, awesome, awesome. They make all kinds of different things. They make a hand unit and stuff, but the Proxon cutter is kind of the way to go. And one of the reasons I'll tell you that is because a lot of people have made jigs and little things, and if you go and you search online for Proxon cutters and stuff, there's a lot of people that are out there doing them. The Cadillac of them is a company in the Netherlands called Shifting Lands. That guy has made so much stuff. It's just amazing, all the different things that he's got it to do. And the Proxon cutter is not cheap. It's, I think when I bought it, I think I paid $60 or $70 for it. The main problem with the Shifting Lands guy, though, is if you are in the US and you order anything from him, shipping is astronomical right now and has been for a while. So that kind of hurts. If you're doing a big order, I have always heard that if you get a hold of the guy that runs it by email or whatever, that he's real good about putting together a discount or something, if you order enough to make it, to kind of counter or put some extra stuff in there to counter the shipping. So that's something you might look at. I don't know that that's for sure and 100% true. I've just always heard that. And so it's obviously something to check out and see if it's worth messing with. So with my grid in pattern, what I did is I took my Proxon cutter and I took the pink styrofoam. I normally have been using blue, but I had some pink left over that was the right size, so I did it. And I cut me long 3/4 inch square tubes, or blocks. So it was a long block. You looked at it from the end, it was 3/4 by 3/4. Then I turned the cutter around, and one of the stuff that I got from somebody I found on Etsy a long time ago. It was cheaper and not as good as the Shipping Land stuff because it doesn't do as many things, but what I needed it for the guard and everything, it's fine. So I set the guard up against the wires to a 1/16 of an inch. And then I took that block and I just ran that thing back and forth against that wire and got me these 3/4 inch, 16 inch thick squares. So, and here's a sample piece that I did up just right quick to demonstrate what I did. So it's not a square up because I didn't have a grid on this, but and these were a test one, so they're not square. Um, but I just went in there and glued them individually on there. The reason I did that is because I wanted that line in between them, give it that brick, stone look. After they're all glued and they were dried, you can take a ball of styrofoam, or not a ball, not styrofoam, but of aluminum foil. This is a piece that I crunched down just because I had it laying around. I think it's the wrapper off of an old breakfast sandwich or something, but it's aluminum foil, so it works. I like the ball better because you can take your hand and rub it on. This one you got to kind of press down on. Hi there, I'm up there, and how are you doing? And you can just press this into this styrofoam, and this pattern will stay on here. I don't know how easy it is to see, but you get a very realistic rock stone look. So that's what's all on these. I like to take a little tool and come in and you can make some little lines, like little cracks. You can kind of push down the corners a little bit. You can put holes, just things that you can, stuff that you would see, when you go and stand on a bunch of natural stone kind of things. So real easy to do. After it's done, you want to paint it and cover it, seal it before you spray it. And then I just sprayed it with the base color I've been using for all my terrain. But like I said, because I glued this all on there before I painted it, it is warped. And it was just because I was in a hurry to get it done. And like I said, this I didn't get it all glued on good. It was still wet and stuff when I was bringing it up here. So this is falling off. This is an easy fix. This is just a matter of getting some glue back on it and putting some more grit in there and fill that in and let it dry. So that's where I'm at on that. I'm going to try to fix it if I can to get the warp out of it. This stuff got on here. It's way too thick. That's what I get for getting. And it just hasn't sealed up very good either. So if I can, like I said, if I can fix it, I'll fix it and move on to the next step that I'll have for next week. If not, I'll have to redo this and start over, but that's no big deal. I'll do that. All right, so let's get to something that we can work on. And if you have any questions, ask away. I'll be glad to answer. The Oasis. This is the main one. I'm making two. I haven't went as far on the other one because I wanted to show you kind of what I did. And I cheat a little bit because I have a laser cutter, so I can laser this stuff out. You can do the same thing with, if you have a jigsaw, if you can do a little hand saw, whatever. If you want to use MDF, you can use, if you want to use styrofoam, you can, whatever you want to use will work. I always work in MDF. So, this is an 1/8 of an inch. Well, the base piece is a 1/16 of an inch. So I cut that, and then I cut a matching piece out of an 1/8 of an inch, and cut out this area in the center for where the water is going to be. Then, before I glued these together, is I grinded these. I've worked on this one here a little bit here. So you can see here, I ground the inside edge first. I've got that all smooth, so it all comes down to an edge. I don't know if you can totally there, but so before I ever glued it, I wanted that inside edge done. Then I glued it to the piece, and it lined up right on the money, like so. After it dried, then I came back and I ground the outside edge. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to pull those two together, so it all comes down to a point. So that's where I've got. So right now, this will be my outside where I'll put my grit and everything like that. This will serve as the water, as the Oasis here. I sprayed it with white primer to seal it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I've got some toilet paper here, and we are going to put some texture to the water. So what I do is I've got some watered down glue here. It's kind of gnarly looking with all the stuff in it. Got sand and grass and all kinds of stuff in it. It's been used a lot. But it's probably, it's a 50-50, I think, is how I ended up mixing this, if I remember correctly. I wouldn't swear to it, but it'll work. It's got some good glue in it. So what I like to do here with this is, and since this is an Oasis, I don't want to get too crazy with my water. I don't need big ripples or anything like that. So what I do with this is set that down on there like so, and then get me a brush. So, and then we will get us some blue water on there and just soak this into this water or into the toilet paper. And what this will end up doing is, after we get it all nice and wet and soaked in there, it'll give us something to put a little texture on. And then when it dries, it looks like water. It needs painted, obviously, but we're just gonna, you don't want to get too crazy. You just want it to soak in, because it is toilet paper and it starts breaking down. But after I get this down, I'll be able to come back with my brush and push it around a little bit, and then I'm gonna take that same aluminum foil and kind of press on it a little bit to give it a little wavy to it, that I don't have to be. And you can come back and put multiple coats on here. Of toilet paper, especially if it's got a lot of pattern quilting, whatever they call it in there. But you want that glue water to soak through there real good and get down to the MDF below. Sure it's good to soak through, get the air out of it. But this way you can get, a little bit of a pattern on here, especially if you're doing like a river or ocean coast or something, big lake. You can really push it up and create waves and ripples and stuff like that. I think for an Oasis, I probably don't need to be quite so dramatic with it. But we want a little texture on it just so that it doesn't look super smooth. And, and if you want to, they make resins and stuff that you can pour in here. With this having this kind of a cup, that would work too. I don't like it. It's a mess. This is not some kind of a huge display piece or something like that. So, I really don't need to get that fancy with it. I don't think. Oops, sorry. So I don't want to go through it. But you know, you can take resin, and what's cool about resin that you can do is you kind of watch it after you pour it, and when it starts getting just a little bit of start setting up just a little bit, you can kind of come in and with a brush or something and push it around just a little bit to get some texture on the top before it sets up and get some neat looks. Those are really cool, especially for when you've poured them around rocks and stuff like that, especially running water like a river or something like that, that you really want to have the ripples coming around. I've seen that done. It looks pretty cool. But the nice thing about this is because of the glue water, after it dries hard. So, but you can already kind of see, I mean, that's not necessarily the texture that I want to go with, but you can see that it's not going to be smooth. And it's really up to you, the stages that you want to go through. What I typically like to do is get the water done first and then come back and do the edges and stuff. That way I can kind of blend everything in. And how I do my water is after this is dry, I'll give it another white primer spray, just a quick one, just to seal it a little bit better. And then after that sets, I've got, and you can whatever color you want to. I got some satin finish. Spray paint that's kind of a middle watercolor look to me. So I spray that on there next, the whole thing. Then I come in with my airbrush and put in light white around the edges, darker color. You can put some greens. You can, if you want to be more brown with your water, you can. It's just whatever your personal preference is. Go for it. All right. And you can overlap this stuff as it all soaks together. It all becomes a mess. You won't have no edges. And it's got a little more texture than I would want for my Oasis, so that's with the aluminum foil. I think that'll press it down enough, but leave a little bit of a pattern in it for me. But if you had rocks or stuff, you can take your brush and you can really push this stuff around once it's wet in there. You're not trying to move it or anything. And it's up to you. The edges, I generally like to let it set up and then come back with a knife and cut that off just so that I don't tear it a bunch trying to get it off while it's still soft. That anywhere you got an edge, you want to kind of work those edges together with your brush, blend it together. Then after I've got the water painted and that I have the color that I like, then I come back in and do the sides. Here in this case, I'll just paint the light color on there. I'll grit it and do the sand so it matches up with everything. And put any kind of bushes or weeds on the edge of it, anything like that. I may put a tree or two on just to kind of add to it. Then when all that's done, all that's said and done, I spray it and seal it a little bit with just some matte spray. Then I have varnish, and I very carefully with my brush paint my water with varnish, a nice good gloss, give it nice and shiny. And then it's ready to go. So you'll see as we go through all these steps, we'll have to let this set up, and then I'll kind of work a couple of steps behind. So next week we'll have this one better, where we're doing some painting and stuff to it, and the other one I can show you some more of the steps after this is dried and everything like that. So. And like I said, you can take and put multiple layers of toilet paper on here and just build it up. You can see the water pattern here starting to. And that's why I like to slope that edge in. That way that tucks up real nice, and have some, put another layer. Seal up that much better. Give it some depth. Nice thing is once you got that first layer on here, the next one sticks to it. It doesn't move around as much on you. All right, so we got that one's all nice and pressed in. It's already soaking into the stuff. And we do it again. Put another layer of water on it. Watery glue. Getting some texture in there that I want. Working back towards myself. But by putting another layer on there, that kind of picks it up a little deeper, gives it a little more body, I think, and makes it look a little better. And especially if you're trying to do ripples and stuff like that, it gives you a little bit more stuff to work with. Around. Sure, all that toilet paper gets good and blue water, because we want it to be nice and hard when it's done drying. Where you got some edges, you see those good, and kind of take your brush and push it around a little bit so it gets rid of got any straight lines. All work together. Work out a little. This is an old model railroad trick. Back before all that, you had all the fancy resin stuff like they do now. All right. Good night, sir. Thanks for stopping by. So you kind of had to make do with, those were the days of the paper mache mountains, and you want to, make sure you kind of try to keep it as even as you can, because you don't want, mounds in the middle, so it loses some of its water look. You don't want that to happen. Slowly getting the last of this soaked in. Usually it's pretty easy to see where you haven't got the water on the toilet paper. It's noticeably lighter colored. Here in it. And you can look at it here, especially if you were doing a lake or a river or something. I mean, the texture that you got is completely serviceable. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I just, being an Oasis, I don't see it being super rough. Not that I've seen a lot of Oasis. In my mind, you would want it to be a little smoother. But like I said, and you can push it around, whatever you want to do to it. I'm just gonna put it in here, and if you wanted to put some rocks or stuff out there, you can. I'm probably gonna put some grass and stuff around the edge, but with it being kind of the idea behind this is being a more sandy desert, I don't want. All right, so there's like that line there, so I want to kind of pull that back and forth across there. All right, so I think I've got that pretty much saturated. Check. A little thicker on one side than I am the other, but I'll squeeze that down here. That'll. I got it all good and tucked up into the edges there. Okay, so there's that. Now, like I said, I'm just going to take this and use, and hopefully this will kind of push it down and give me a texture, but not here as. Because I want it, kind of rough, but I don't want it white capping on me. Just want to kind of do it, just dab at it. So you can see it's kind of taken some of the higher peaks that I had on it, but still leaving a little bit of a texture on there. So that way, later on you want to dry brush a little bit on it, have a little white. You can make it look a little, especially on rivers and stuff like that or coastlines. That looks really cool. But this way, it has a kind of a water look to it without being just smooth. I've done them that way where I've just painted them on for fast stuff, but to me, this looks much better. Right. And you want to try to make sure your pattern's going the same way, so if your water's going back and forth, you don't want stuff going this way and stuff going this way. So we've kind of, as I've kept with it, I've kind of kept the same direction and moved away from me. That way it's going one direction, sort of. And here where it was a little thicker, put a little more weight to it to squish it down a little, like it's matching up. Make sure you watch for air bubbles. Air get there. A little more glue on it to soak her down. Usually you just didn't get enough glue down on it. It's some dryness to it. And you can get you can get as fancy as you want to get. I mean, if you want to come around here and push it up towards the shore a little bit, and if you want to, you can go around it like that and build kind of a pattern that way, where it's spreading out the ripples. All right, so there is the Oasis, the water. This will dry, um, and then I will come back. It's usually too soft. We can usually drag, yeah. So I like to let it set up and get hard, then come back with my X-Acto knife and just cut into that crease. Um, it doesn't have to be super great because when you bring that grit down, you'll overlap it a little bit anyway. So that'll cover up any rough edges or anything. To make sure. All right, I think I'm happy with that. Oh, I pushed it up. Knife pushed it back on. A little bulges, a little bit of air underneath it. I have to, after once it's dry and stuff, if you have to scrape it a little bit, you can, and put a little glue water back in there to make sure it's punched down. I think it's just pulled up in a couple of places. Water on it. See it. The air just. Where else? You could tear it a little bit. Punch it. Kind of just. They got a little bit of a line here. Doesn't want it out. Up, I think, with the texture on it, and when it gets painted, show up. All right, so there I've got it. The beginning of our Oasis. So we'll set that aside and dry. But all that is, like I said, that's just gluey water and toilet paper. So I think it makes a great effect, and it's easy to use. And so, all right. Got that done. I'd planned on working more on the Plaza tonight, but because of that issues there, we're not going to be able to do that until I can either fix it or do another one. So we're going to work on the last 15 minutes. The pyramid. I'm still painting on it. So I still got the two sides here to finish up. So we'll paint. We'll paint for a little bit. Kind of a quiet night tonight. I don't know if that means nobody's here or nobody's talking, which is fine. Want to listen to me drone on? Story of my life. All right, let's see. Shall we paint the edges here first? Got that other one done. Working on the edges here a little bit more to getting closer and closer. This thing all put together and ready to play on. I don't want the paint to be on the top yet, or it'll show up. Just trying to get enough brown on there to break it up so that when I'll put the wash over it after, and that'll get down into all the smaller crannies and bring it all together. Like we did with the side here. This is a finished side. So you can see when it all gets done, it'll work together. So, but I got to get them all base coated first, which just sucks. Got stuff already painted. It's about it. Work around it. Do 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 do. Quiet night. But once I get these edges painted, then I can come back and do the tops, and I'll be ready to be washed and brushed. Will be one with the world. And kind of a weird Tuesday anyway. Doo -doo. And I could use a smaller brush and be a little nicer about it, but it's just as easy to just kind of swallop it on there and worry about the back edge and then wipe the front off because it's all going to get covered again anyway. Color. Now I'm just trying to get the top edges that'll show so that it kind of matches up with the rest of it. When I stick the wash in there, it'll go down and back behind it, cracks, darken it all up, tie it together. I will. It's been a week or so since I've uploaded all the streams to YouTube. So if you've been watching it on there, I will get the here over the next year or two. Things just got a little hectic around here. 10 minutes left. If you haven't followed the page yet, please hit the follow button down there. Know who's new and then tomorrow night, me and James will be here for our Cav HQ live, so we'll be talking about game stuff. Sure what the topic will be. Between now and then, we'll figure something out. We always do. If there's something in particular you want us to cover, always please let us know on Facebook, make comments on our here, go to YouTube, whatever you want to do, just let us know. And we will try to do our best to work it in for you. Whether it's a rule question or a world question or fortunately no lottery numbers, but everything else we'll try. Yeah, I think I already did that side, so those are done. All right, that gets that. Color down here. Not worried about this being a real heavy, thick coat because I wash it and dry brush it and everything. It'll come together. I think I've been dry and get our base down. And then after these parts are done, the pyramid's done. Finish up the air bay sitting. Kind of had an idea for it. I was looking at a couple of some Egyptian pictures the other day, kind of getting some ideas for my plaza because I want to redo the columns that I had done on the old one. I'd kind of hand done those with some pieces from Michael's that I found back in the day, but now that I got a 3D printer, I'd like to make a pattern for a more realistic looking one. But there's a walkway, entranceway, kind of an arch saw that I thought would be pretty cool to be the entrance to the air bay. I'm going to look and see just the mount, put that arch in front of the front door, in front of the bay door. See if I can tie that together. I think that would be pretty cool. Oops. All right. Get some base color on there. Do this other one to finish us out. So thank you for those that came tonight. We said kind of a quiet night, but saw how I got my water started. I think once you see that painted, I think you'll see how it really snaps. And then for next week, I will have I'll have that one painted, and then the other one kind of some parts done with it to show you steps, and then we will start on the plaza. And either if I've got this one fixed, great. If I don't, I'll have a new one. Just remember when I make this one to seal it with paint first. Before I put a bunch of glue on it. It's just that glue is so, as it dries and it soaks into that MDF, if it's raw, it just pulls itself together and it just just pulls the. And it's just enough to put a little bow in it. So if I just even just sprayed it right quick and put a coat of any kind of paint on it to the glue from. So it sucks. Now I gotta gluing all them little tiles on. It's not fun. Oh, but the things that we do for our hobby, right? Okay, so I'm going to finish this up, but I'm going to go ahead and send everybody home, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow night. So thanks for coming, and be safe. Good night.